Week one of the regular season is here. Welcome to Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. I am John Schmeelk, right here in the Hackensack Meridian Health Podcast Studio. Keep getting better. Thrilled to be joined by the voice of the Giants, Bob Papa, who will be popping in and out on BBK throughout the season. Bob's fresh off his SiriusXM radio show. Bob, how are you, man?
I'm doing great, John. Excited for week one of the NFL season. Begins Thursday night with the Super Bowl champion Eagles hosting the Cowboys, and we got a game in Brazil on Friday. But focus right now is Giants Commanders on Sunday at 1.
Yes, absolutely. Giants getting ready to play their first regular season game, home opener for the Commanders. And Bob, we were talking about this at lunch very quickly, but this is really one of the more optimistic times that I've sensed from Giants fandom heading into this year. That I think even a little bit more optimistic than we were heading into the 2023 season off the playoff win.
Well, I think, the fact that the Giants drafted Abdul Carter, number 3 overall, and then went and got Jackson Dart, that had the fan base energized. But I think the way Jackson Dart played throughout the preseason has everybody fired up, and the way the offense looked with all 4 quarterbacks that played. So I think there's a lot of reason to be optimistic. I think fans are excited about the offensive line and the way they've kind of come together. And I think one of the things that has people encouraged is even when the second string and third string offensive lines played in the preseason, they played kind of well. And I think people feel a lot more comfortable about the depth, the options that they have. So, yeah, this is an exciting year for the Giants and an exciting week for the Giants anyway, getting ready for the game against the Commanders, who, let's face it, they played Washington tough last year as it was, including the game down in Washington. So I think that there's a lot of feeling of optimism now. Obviously, you got to start off with 2 road division games. Dallas looks a lot different without Micah Parsons. But can they get this season sort of stabilized going into that Philadelphia Eagles game? Can they get 2 wins out of these first 5 games going into that Philly game?
Yep, absolutely. We are taking your calls, by the way, at 201-939-4513, 201-939-4513. If you are fans that are on Twitter and are following along as all the beat reporters tweet out about the Giants' unofficial depth chart, the Giants just sent out their weekly release for the game. And it should be important to note that this is an unofficial depth chart. So, but what the beats are all tweeting about is that Jackson Dart is listed as the backup quarterback behind Russell Wilson. That's something that was also there over the course of the summer. So I don't know, Bob. I'm not going to take this that seriously. I'll know who the backup quarterback is once we look at the depth chart on Sunday. If one of the quarterbacks is the emergency third quarterback and the other one is actually active, that's when I'm going to know what they're going to do here. I'm not going to go off some unofficial depth chart that got sent out in a release on a Tuesday.
No, but I think it does speak to what Jackson Dart was able to do in the preseason as far as kind of progress and show growth. And I think it's kind of cool with what he's been able to do.
Sure.
But, yeah, they may, depending on health throughout the course of this week, they could go into the game with the 3 quarterbacks or 1 designated as the emergency quarterback. So, look, he's listed as the backup. You kind of hope that you don't see Jackson Dart as the backup playing. I think you want to kind of get through this season as deep as you can get into this season with Russell Wilson as your starting quarterback.
Yeah, which is why, I don't know, part of me still believes that if, again, I'm knocking on wood here, if something happens and you have to slide a quarterback in there for a couple plays in the second quarter of week 1, I just feel like that's going to be Jameis, and it's not going to be Dart. I have no idea. And again, the unofficial depth chart says what it says, but we'll have to wait and see what it looks like on game day.
Well, remember something too, John. One of the things that Brian Dable told us during our TV production meetings was he wanted to make things uncomfortable for his coaching staff and for his players in the preseason. And he told us, he goes, I'm going to do some things in these preseason games that I'm not telling anybody. I'm not telling you guys, but I'm telling you guys that these guys are going to have to be on their toes. And we saw Russell Wilson in the preseason game playing and then come out for 1 play, and Jackson Dart hurried in, got the playoff. He hit Theo Johnson on a catch and run, and boom, Russell Wilson was back in the game. So I think they've prepared for a lot of different eventualities and to kind of get reps through so there's no helter-skelter if something like that happens.
The other thing to keep an eye on this week is obviously the health of Andrew Thomas. Bob, he's coming off of that very serious foot injury of last year. Hasn't practiced in full over the summer quite yet. We were not able to watch practice last week. It was closed to the media because training camp was over. So I don't know what was happening at some of those practices last week that we weren't allowed to watch. But Wednesday will be a very telling day when we get his practice designation, and then obviously when we get the injury report on Friday. Love to have him on the field, but they brought James Hudson in for a reason, and I know Brian Dable and Joe Shane both have a lot of confidence in him if he has to go at left tackle.
Yeah, I mean, if you just read between the lines of when Andrew Thomas spoke with the media last week, there was uncertainty, right? So every fan that's watching this should have the same kind of uncertainty because he wasn't like convincing, like, yeah, I'm going to be good to go. I'm good to go. You know, it was about managing it and all those other things. And you and I, and we saw him moving around on the side like his first days back on the field, and you'd say to yourself, okay, he looks like he could be a little bit of ways away. But I think, unlike in years past, where it was legitimately a crapshoot, where are we putting Josh Azuto out there? Is Evan Neal going to move to the left side? Are they going to move Illuminor and put someone on the right side?
Or are they signing Justin Pugh at like 35 years old, who hasn't played in a year, off the couch?
Yeah, or Tyree Phillips, players like that. I think now what you have, and I think this is a reason why there's a comfort level, is these guys have all gotten a lot of reps throughout training camp as a unit with Hudson as the starting left tackle, with Runyon, John Michael Schmitz, Van Roten, and Jermaine Illuminor. They've got a lot of reps. We saw them do a lot of one-on-ones against their own defense, against the Jets. They played a lot of snaps. Marcus Bowe, I mean, you can say it's preseason, but if you're standing on the practice field and you're standing next to Sean O'Hara and you're watching this stuff, or you're standing next to Howard Cross and you're watching this stuff, and they're kind of wowing about what Marcus Bowe is doing out there, you feel pretty confident that if you had to put him in the game, it's not going to be a jailbreak. Now, I'm not saying that it's not going to be rough and there won't be issues along the way, but everything just feels much more stabilized. Everything feels much more secure. Now, we're going to find out on Sunday when Frankie Louvu is coming off the edge and Washington is bringing pressure packages, because I think they blitzed on 31% of their snaps last year. So we'll see how they do. But I think for the most part, fans feel a little bit more comfortable in the fact that things seem to be settled on the offensive line. That ties into quarterback decision-making.
Yeah, and then finally we should touch on the defense here, Bob. I just think there's a lot of optimism about what this defense can be. All of the stars and leaders on this defense, Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns specifically, have made the point a number of times this offseason that, look, you could look at the names on paper, you could look at the additions, you could look at the draft picks, the veteran free agents, and yeah, does it look good? Sure. But until this group goes out there on the field and proves it, it really doesn't mean much, and they have a really, really tough challenge in week one in Jaden Daniels, who's obviously a dual-weapon quarterback, run, throw. He has some weapons to throw the ball to, with Terry McLaurin signing his extension, Deebo Samuel now there, Zach Ertz, the veteran tight end. This defense is going to be tested on the road in week one of this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to be tested in a different kind of way, right? Because this isn't Brian Robinson lining it up and running it down their throat as he did last year. This is, Austin Eckler and their compilation of backs tied in with Jaden Daniels, sprinkle in a little Deebo Samuel if they run him, because he has a run threat to his game as he's had over the course of his career. So it's not a traditional, can you stop the run? But there were too many times last year, John, where, teams were in 3rd and 6 and they just ran. They ran power right at the Giants and got first downs. Now, I thought last year they really missed A'Shawn Robinson, who had left and wound up signing with Carolina. The Giants didn't keep him. I don't think they ever filled that void. But now you bring in Roy Robertson Harris. You bring in Chauncey Golston, who are proven guys who are solid against the run, to provide depth up front with Dexter Lawrence. And DJ Davidson had a really good training camp and a really good preseason. And then you drafted Darius Alexander, who you can use in specific roles at this point until he gets better. it looks much more fortified. But until we get to Sunday and see how they're going to stop it, it remains a question mark.
It does. 201-939-4513. Run or walk with Giants legends. The Giants Foundation will host a 5K racing kids run presented by Quest on Sunday, October 26th at 9 a.m. at MetLife Stadium. Net proceeds will benefit the Giants Foundation. All participants will receive a commemorative t-shirt. And after the race, stay for a post-race festival with appearances by Giants legends and a live DJ. Register now at Giants.com/5K. The Giants Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation.
I want to go back to this unofficial depth chart.
Yeah, please.
Because it's interesting. I don't think I've seen this before, but they put under the offense, it's base offense. And if you look at the defense, instead of just defense, it's base defense. So at one of the starting corners, they have Cordell Flott / Deontay Banks. And I really think that based on game style or whatever, one may start over the other. Follow what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like if Washington lines up and they're show and run, or their personnel package that comes in looks like a heavy run formation, I think you might see Deontay Banks start. If they come out and they spread you, you might see Cordell Flott start. Like I think a lot of it is going to be dependent on the personnel group that comes out on the field.
And I think it's interesting, too, that they're labeling their base offense as being 11 personnel, which is 1 running back, 1 tight end, 3 wide receivers. So I think that gives you a little bit of a hint, too, right? And the base defense is a nickel package with Drew Phillips as your nickel. You have your down lineman with Dexter Lawrence and Nacho inside, Thibodeau and Burns outside, Carter and Golston backing up with those 2 defensive end outside linebacker edge spots. So I think it's interesting that they view those as their base packages. Though to your point, Washington is going to spread you out a lot, so nickel is going to be most teams' base packages now.
Right. So is this a 3-4? Is this a 4-3? Is
4-2-5?
Yeah, or it could be a 2. It could be a 2-5. Like when you think about it,
right?
I mean, is Kayvon Thibodeau really a defensive end? But he does do a really good job of setting the edge as far as run stopping is concerned, and he's athletic enough to be able to deal with a Jaden Daniels. It's going to be fascinating to see how Shane Bowen cooks up strategies for this game. But again, this is a base defense, a base offense, and we all know that the NFL over the last 30 years has evolved to such a point where, the 86-90 Giants, they played a lot of 3-4, traditional 3-4, 2-gap nose tackle. That's how they played. Obviously, in Super Bowl 25, they went to a completely exotic look, daring Buffalo to run, which they didn't do for some reason, and they waited until the fourth quarter to do it. Good for Giants fans. But I think many teams in the National Football League are not a 3-4 or a 4-3. They're multiple defenses.
Yeah, and I think that's what the Giants want to do this year for sure. And I do think those 2 veteran additions in the secondary, Bob, I think with the drafting of Abdul Carter, they've been overlooked just a little bit by people. It's really, I think, going to open up the litany of options that Shane Bowen's going to have on the back end here. You don't have the really young secondary you had last year. You could do a lot of disguising, post-snap stuff. You could play more man because you have Paulson Adebo on one side. He's going to have the opportunity to do more things than he did last year because of the improved talent on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about it, John. But again, it kind of comes down to old school basic football. And you see it with the teams that win the Super Bowl every year, the teams that go deep into the playoffs. Can you stop the run?
Yep.
Can you run the ball? I mean, no matter how much the game has changed, schematic-wise, it's become more of a passing league. You still have to be able to win at the point of attack. And for me, the 2 biggest question marks for the Giants coming into this season, it's not the quarterback. It's not what does Russell Wilson have left in the tank. Who's going to step up at wide receiver? Can Tyrone Tracy take his game to a next level? Is Banks improved? Flott, whatever. Do they win at the point of attack? Do they stop the run? And when you need to get a yard or 2, can you run the football effectively to get those yards? Plain and simple.
The best teams dominate up front on both sides. You go back to the Giants Super Bowl championship teams. 2011 was a little bit different. They had trouble running the ball that year a little bit, especially earlier in the year. But it got better.
Starting with the Jet game when on Christmas Eve when Ahmad Bradshaw ran over the safety, the Giant running game was different the rest of the way.
Yep.
It completely changed. And I think, that's all the Super Bowl champions. Kansas City, they were the last 2 years ago when they won the Super Bowl, they were predominantly a running team. You have to be able to run the football, and you have to be able to control the run if you're going to have any chance to win in this league on a consistent basis.
And I think it could be a big year for Tyrone Tracy Jr. Tiki Barber, Bob, and, I've talked to him a lot now since I'm doing the pre- and post-game with him. He raves about him. He loves him as a player, says he reminds him of him a lot. Got to make sure he doesn't put the ball on the ground now. That's important. And Tiki has talked to him about that. He obviously has experience in that regard. But he thinks he's a chance to be a really, really good player.
Yeah, I love the kid. I love his attitude. I was talking with him yesterday in the cafeteria. He did a little something for me, and we were just chatting. And he's just got a great personality. He's very humble.
Yeah.
And he's a hard worker. And I think, Devin Singletary, with Scattaboo being a rookie and Tracy just kind of going into year 2 of learning how to be a pro. I know there was a lot of talk about Singletary and kind of what he has left and everything else, but just like Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston helped elevate the quarterback room, sometimes you need that veteran hand in there. And Singletary can still play. He's not as explosive as he once was, but I think having Singletary there, who's a really generous person and a smart guy with a high football IQ, I think that's very beneficial for Tyrone Tracy's development.
Yeah, Brian Dable has spoken glowingly to us about Devin Singletary over the years and what he brings as a leader and trying to bring that room together. All right, let's go to the phones here, 201-939-4513. Let's lead things off with Aiden up in Boston. Aiden, what's going on, man? How are you?
Hey, how's it going on? Good to talk to you guys.
Pearson, bring the phone pod up. There you go, Aiden. Sorry about that.
You got me?
Yeah, now we got you. Go ahead, Aiden. We got you.
Okay, yeah, just making sure. Okay, yeah, so a lot of people are calling in lots of optimistic stuff, so gotta keep it going. First, I have Abdul Carter. He's getting the rookie sack record, which is 14.5. Then I got Abdul Carter is also getting Defensive Rookie of the Year. You guys talked about Tracy having a big year. I have him going for 7+ touchdowns.
Well, Aiden, I would be careful with the touchdowns with Tracy because I could see Singletary, who's a very savvy short yardage back, and Scadab, who obviously is a powerful kid. I could see them getting a lot of the work inside the 10-yard line, to be honest with you.
Yeah, also, I'm combining that with receiving touchdowns, so he could get a few receiving touchdowns, too. Sure. And then Russell Wilson, 3+ 3 touchdown games. He lasted that in 2023. And then I have 2 things that Jamar Chase did last year with Neighbors. I have him getting 3+ multi-touchdown games and 4+ touchdowns from 50+ yards.
All right, Aiden. Wow. Appreciate the call, man.
Yep. A lot of combos. Aiden,
I have some more. I have a question.
Aiden, okay. If you have a question, go with that.
Yeah, so first I want to say just it's a tough schedule and everything, and lots of hours. You just got to play the game. But you guys were talking about Tracy before. He had a really good rookie season, obviously exceeded expectations as a first-round, fifth-round pick. And I want to know what you guys think the Giants' expectations are for him and what he needs to do building off his rookie season other than like the fumbling and everything, and what you think his ceiling is. And thanks for taking my call.
Thanks, Ed. Appreciate it.
Well, that's the biggest thing is the fumbling situation. Mm-hmm. You think about his last 100-yard rushing game came against Carolina in Germany, but he committed the costly sin of turning the football over late in the game. That's what he has to improve upon. I think the running back, he's definitely going to improve as a running back this year, only because last year was his first year as a running back in the NFL, and remember, he had played predominantly as wide receiver in college, and he only had 1 year of full-time running back as a collegiate player. So I think he's just naturally going to get better. He's going to see things. The game is going to slow down for him a little bit more. He understands defenses more, helping with his reads. If this offensive line is as improved as we think it is, it'll give him opportunities. but the turnovers are the one big thing. Even Devin Singletary, if you remember the season opener or the road opener last year in Washington, the Giants had momentum, and early in the third quarter, they're moving the ball down the field. Daniel Jones is carving them up. The Giants are running the ball, throwing the ball. They're in phenomenal position. And then in plus territory, Devin Singletary fumbled the ball away, which changed momentum of that game and gave Washington life. So I think it's a scenario here where protecting the football is the thing he's got to improve upon the most.
201-939-4513. We're also taking your questions and comments on YouTube, Bob. We have one coming in from Atomic Age Gamer. Wants to know if the Giants may draw up some special packages for Jackson Dart's skill set, maybe some RPOs for a change of pace. I don't think this is going to be like a Taysom Hill situation. That's not my feel for how this is going to go.
I don't know. John, I would hesitate to be so definitive on that. I think Brian Daboll this year, his comfort level of what they're doing offensively, his comfort level with the quarterback, his growing comfort level with Jackson Dart, I wouldn't be shocked. I think, look, it's year 4 of his program. The team was really bad at scoring last year. They were bad in the red zone. They were bad at scoring. They were bad on third downs. Offensively, they were extremely challenged. I think it's empty in the saddlebag this year.
Fair.
I am not ruling that out because he is a good athlete. He can come in and give you a couple of snaps in packages to do something about keeping the defense off balance, right? And especially in games in which they're maybe fighting a little bit above their weight class against some of the higher echelon teams, why not throw some stuff against the wall? I think it's not out of the question. I don't think it's a staple of the offense, but I wouldn't be shocked because I think the head coach trusts this rookie quarterback a lot.
Let's go to Jason in New Haven. He's up next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hey, Jason.
John and Bob, how you guys doing?
We're good.
We're good.
So my I guess question to you two would be, I've been hearing a lot, not necessarily, your podcast or Giants.com or anything like that, but just the national outlook on our offense, right? And I know, John, you heard me last week talk about Russell. But, Bob, my thing is just nationally you'll hear, well, Russell isn't 2015 Russell. He isn't a top 5 quarterback. Our receivers are meh. Our O-line is we don't really have a good running backs. And I guess my comeback to that would be, I think everybody nowadays with this whole offense thinks your offense can't function unless you have 3 elite receivers, an elite quarterback, an elite O-line, an elite running back, an elite tight end, when in my opinion, when I played ball in college and even watching it throughout the years since I was a kid, to me, all you really need is competent QB play and a solid scheme, and I think we have that. I think Russ is still a competent quarterback. He's an upgrade over what we've had the last few years, in my opinion. Malik is Malik. He'll do his thing. Slayton, to me, is still underrated in Giants land. I think Tracy is an above-average running back, and I like our tight end room. So I don't think it's too far-fetched for me to say I personally expect us to put some points on Washington. I think this is my opinion. Of course, the game has to be played. I think they're severely overrated. I think our roster is very improved, and if our roster is improved with our quarterback play, we're the underdogs on Sunday. But I wouldn't be shocked if we beat them. Could we lose? Of course we could lose. Any team can lose on week 1. Crazy things happen. But to me, I don't think it's a big shock if we beat those guys. So let me hear what you guys think about that, and I'll take the call off there.
Jason, real quick before you say goodbye. Can I play devil's advocate to you for 1 second? And by the way, I think the offense is going to be improved. What personnel changes on offense, if you look at the Giants' starting offense this year compared to last year, what personnel changes have been made on the offensive side of the ball for the Giants?
To me, the number one thing, and like I said, this is just my opinion, to me, the number one big upgrade is that quarterback.
Well, no, but Jason, you're saying that is the only change.
Well, left tackle. I mean, you have you got a legitimate guy that you can put in there now at left tackle, and a veteran guy with a bunch of starts under his belt that you know that it's not going to be a jailbreak on every snap.
I agree. The point I was trying to make, and I think you're 100% right about that, is that I think the reason the national media looks at it that way is that they see pretty much the same guys on the field. The national media, generally speaking, does not believe in Russell Wilson based on what's happened the last 3 years. I think what people have seen here in the building this year, we think differently. And last year, the Giants averaged 16 points a game. And I think, Bob, we both agree. If you're going to be a good competitive team, and Jason, thanks a lot for the call. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I got some other comments about what Jason had to say, but go ahead, finish your point.
You have to be up around 21 points per game. If you want to be a team that's competing in this league offensively, you have to be around 3 touchdowns a game, however you get there.
Correct.
And that's where the Giants need to get this year in order to try to have a better record.
That gives you a chance to win games.
Yeah.
That's the magic number. I think 22 is now the magic number, that if you can score average 22 points a game, you have a chance to win most of your games. The Russell Wilson narrative is interesting because he is not the same player he was in 2015. We all know that. I think sometimes we saw over the last couple of years him playing the game as if it was still 2015. His escapability is not what it once was, okay? However, let's not forget, and this is to Jason's point, just 2 years ago, now he and Sean Payton butted heads, okay? And I think that Joe Shane has told us, Russell Wilson came to the Giants eyes wide open. He knew that there was a chance they were going to draft a quarterback. He knows his reputation has taken a ding over the last 5 years. From his last couple of years in Seattle, his time in Denver with Hackett as his head coach, and then Sean Payton, a Super Bowl winning, strong-willed guy, comes in. They butted heads. We all remember that sideline altercation between the two of them. But let's not forget, in 2023, Russell Wilson had 26 touchdowns and 8 interceptions.
When's the last time a Giants quarterback put up that stat line? Prime Eli Manning.
Yeah, I mean, Daniel Jones, 24 and 12 his rookie season. That to have that kind of ratio. So to Jason's point, I think you're right. I think people are sleeping a little bit on Russell Wilson because he understands where he is now. And look, I'm not saying that Russell Wilson is going to be the Russell Wilson of 2017 with 34 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. But I think he's looking at this as his last chance, right? His last opportunity to prove that he could still play on a high level in the NFL. So, and then who did they change on offense? Well, you're right. But how many times have we seen over the last 3 years? And John, you and I sitting in the booth, I'm calling the games on the radio. How many times do we see Darius Slayton run by people? Think about 2023 and that shellacking that they took at the hands of the Dallas Cowboys. He put some of their DBs in unbelievable spin cycles and was running wide open, and the ball either wasn't being thrown or the offensive line was completely collapsing and Daniel Jones was getting whacked. So let's see what happens with better protection and a quarterback that has confidence to let it rip downfield. Listen, we're just speculating right now. We're giving our opinions. We're giving our thoughts. But for the naysayer out there, you have every right to stand on your ground, too, because until you see it happen in a regular season game, all we're doing, us, you guys, we're just talking and giving opinions.
Absolutely. And I think with Russell Wilson, what has Dable excited is that he will throw the ball downfield. I go back to that Bo Collins deep post in the preseason, Bob. When he let that ball go, Bo Collins was not open. He had not run by guys yet, but he could see by the angle of the safety that he was going to be open. We did not see throws like that get made over the last couple of years.
It's called anticipation. We saw Jackson Dart do it in Buffalo. When he was getting hit and released the ball, I think it was Little Jordan Humphrey or was it Zach Pascal, one of the two, had not even finished separating, but he threw it to a spot with accuracy, anticipating where his guy was going to get to go make a play.
And I think we all believe that with everything he's seen, changing plays at the line of scrimmage, making protection calls. Russell Wilson's never been a player that turns the ball over a lot. Those are all the things where you're going to see the improvements that I think don't show up in the numbers necessarily.
And let me ask you this, too. Think about Jackson Dart Russell Wilson, Tommy DeVito. Even though he's not on the team anymore. But if you think about, and even Jameis Winston, if you think about either the preseason games or those 2 days of practice against the Jets in 11-on-11, especially in the high red zone, the seam routes were on the money. Where the Jet players had, and in the games, the Patriot game, in the Buffalo game, these seam routes are being thrown where the guy is releasing into that hole, and the ball is on him as he's turning his head. We have not seen that in the past. And, when you talk about explosives, everybody thinks explosives are just the Russell Wilson moonball.
Right.
But it's the timing of the throw. It's Wan'Dale Robinson on a shallow cross or a whip route. If the ball's placed in the right spot, maybe he turns that into a gain of 12.
How many times did Robinson have to fall down after he caught a pass last year because it was a low ball? Sorry for interrupting, but it was crazy.
Not just him.
Yeah.
A lot of guys. So my point is that they can get explosive plays more than just bombs away down the field. You can get explosive plays on mid-range passes that then become explosive plays, a la Eli Manning to Odell Beckham Jr. against the Ravens on a slant. Turned into a 60-yard touchdown. The ball traveled about 5 yards in the air.
Theo Johnson said it on his feature with Sean O'Hara. When he turns to look for the ball, he never sees Russell Wilson actually throwing it. The ball's already in the air on its way because he's throwing it on time with anticipation, and that allows receivers to run after catch, which is important.
We'll find out on Sunday how it all unfolds.
Absolutely. 201-939-4513. Dave in Cranford is up next. Hi, Dave.
Hey, John. Hey, Bob. It's great to talk to you guys. Just want to say thanks, man. I haven't been able to call in, been recovering, but I am an avid consumer of Giants.com and all the stuff you guys put out there.
Thanks, Dave.
I also follow some of our other NFC East folks to see what they got going on, and you guys are so far superior in your coverage, it's not even close. So just thank you for that.
I appreciate that, Dave. Thank you.
I wanted to mention just something Bob had talked about, both of you actually did. But I think part of the reason, one is, when you hear about Russell Wilson and how he's going to do this year, he's compared, it always starts with, we all do it. It always starts with, well, he's not the player he was. Well, his career up until now has been pretty much like a Hall of Fame career.
It is a Hall of Fame career. He will go to the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Yeah, and you look at other players, like the one that comes to mind that we're familiar with is Kurt Warner. He wasn't the same player at the end of his career. His arm strength was not what it used to be. He didn't put up the same numbers, but he was still a radically effective quarterback the last couple of years of his career. So, and Alex Smith had a better second half of his career, even after injury, than he did in his first half of his career. There's just different examples of guys that, and I think for the Giants to have success this year, it's not a matter of the old Russell Wilson. It's a matter of getting competent and getting to that 21, number. So that's one thing. But I think the other one that's misplaced is the year two starters that we're going to see in some very critical situations. And you can really look at 5 of them. You look at your starting running back year 2, your starting tight end year 2, your starting number 1 receiver year 2, your starting safety year 2. Your starting nickel corner, which is a critical role in this defense and really in any defense today, year 2. So the idea that you're going to get those guys at a much, much more competent level.
That's a good point.
How about your starting safety year 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you really have a lot of guys. And then you have guys coming back from injury. And then second year, I do think that the one negative about Daboll's offense is that it is, a mouthful, and it is a lot. And so year 2 for the offensive line, year 2 just for those guys to be in the offense, I think that's a big advantage. I'll leave you with this one question. Love to get your guys' thought on it. When they got Jackson Dart, my first thought was, okay, let's just sit the guy as long as we can, and then let him go, and we'll get him in maybe for next year or the end of this year or whatever. Watching him play and seeing how he's progressed and just his whole package, I really think that there's a chance that Dable has a package or two for him even in week one. Now, it's dangerous. It's dangerous in this regard because he could come in and light it up, and if he does, you guys are going to be taking calls ad nauseum from people demanding he gets back in there. But I think it's more of a curveball and a change-up in terms of he comes in and runs some more RPO, runs the spread, actually runs himself, and, shows a different side. It both gives Washington something to have to respond to in week one, but it also gives other teams something to have to prepare for going forward. So I actually think he's more of a weapon that Dable might think about using than it is, just in his development. So I'd love to get you guys' thoughts on that. And
Thanks,
again, thanks for all your work, and you guys have a great week and great game.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, we took that question from YouTube.
Yeah.
One of the viewers on YouTube earlier in the show. You didn't think so. I think they will have some packages in for him, only because I think Dable trusts him a lot. He's proven to be trustworthy, and I think he brings a different athleticism to the position. I don't know if they have any plans to do it, but who knows? I think anything goes this year, quite honestly.
Look, Bob, they need to win more games. The last 2 years they did not win a lot of football games. And you're right. You got to do everything you can with this schedule. The margins in the NFL are extraordinarily thin. If you can do anything to shift that just a little bit, 1 or 2 more first downs in a game, that can be the difference between winning or losing.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that they're looking at. And I think that although they haven't added any skill position pieces outside of drafting Scadaboo as a third running back, and as I mentioned, adding Hudson to give your offensive line some stability, but it's not like they brought in any other wide receivers or anything like that. I think they're confident because remember, when you do get protection and you have balance as a team and you're playing good defense, I'll take you back to 2022. When they took Isaiah Hodgins off the street, the guy had 100 yards receiving in the playoff game. And the guy was like this phenom all of a sudden because of what? You were able to run the ball, stop the run, have balance, and then Dable was able to scheme guys open within the system of what they do offensively. And I think they feel like with solid quarterback play and the ability to run the ball that they will be able to create opportunities for people.
Yeah, and I think Dave made a good point. I think that's the argument where, and oftentimes it's guys making improvements that are already on the roster, internal improvements of young players that will elevate a team from one year to the next.
You could see it in Malik Neighbors. Just being in the cafeteria, his body language, the way he carries himself, he's much more comfortable. Looks like he's gotten a little bit bigger and a little bit stronger.
Acts like a pro.
Yeah, it's a world of difference. It's a world, and I think Tyrone Tracy talked about that on the conference call yesterday, being in year 2. Drew Phillips has talked about, being able to see things and understand things on a different level. For a lot of those rookies, it was a whirlwind. And, I think this year everything kind of slows down for him.
I'm with you. Len in Columbia, Maryland. Len will be at the game on Sunday in our nation's capital. Len, what's going on?
Yeah. Opening day, you just, no matter where it is, geez, it's hard to miss it. I mean, you got to be there on opening day, and luckily it's down here, so I'll get to see it. But let me sum up my experience, and you guys can relate to this. An old quote, "A fool and his money is soon parted." But hey, it's going to be a great day at FedEx Field on Sunday. So,
Len, how'd you get the tickets?
It's a SeatGeek.
SeatGeek, okay.
But I was very specific where I wanted to be. I've been in the stadium a lot of times. Bob, I got down this way in 1965 to go to graduate school, and I've probably seen over 50 of the 60 games that were played between that date and
I'm curious, Len, because of their success that they had getting to the NFC Championship game and the building of the momentum for that franchise, did you pay a big premium on SeatGeek?
I paid something that I could tolerate, Bob.
Okay.
And I also was where I wanted to be in the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
I could have done a lot better, but I didn't. You've been in the stadium, obviously.
It's awesome.
I didn't want to go upstairs. I wanted the lower bowl, and I wanted a particular end of the field for the getaway.
Gotcha. All right,
And,
I got it.
So I was able.
Len's already playing his way out of the parking lot after the game. He knows there's one road out of there. You got to get out of there quick.
There you go. And I wanted to be in that end of the field, so I could do that. And when the gun went off, head for the exit, and didn't have to come down escalators or ramps or anything like that.
What do you have on the game today, Len?
So that was my story. It was not an endorsement of SeatGeek. I was just able to find one where I wanted to be at a price that I could tolerate.
Well, yes, because
but I paid over.
By the way, just to know, Ticketmaster is
obviously
the official ticket marketplace of the Giants. Just to make that point. Go ahead, Len.
There you go.
And the NFL, correct.
So it's going to be exciting. I don't. This has been the theme of the call so far. I don't think, we're going to come down here. I don't see any reason why we can't win this game. We've had success down here. I think we got a better team. I'm not so sure they're ready to be a full force this early in the season.
Why do you say that?
We're going to have a tough time running on them. That interior with Payne and Kinlaw and Newton, who's ready to emerge as a top flight player,
and Bobby Wagner, by the way.
In there, we're going to have a tough time running the ball. And for me, I just seem to think that Russell's got to win this game for us, and we got to keep the quarterback in third and long, third and sevens. And I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game. I think he's going to have to kick a few field goals if we're going to win this game. But I have every confidence that we can win it. Because I think we'll stop their run, too. We're much better up front, and, we got Dexter. So what do you guys think on my breakdown here, how we're going to win this game? I think Russell is just going to have to carry us.
Len, I'll be honest with you, and Bob, I'm curious your take on this. I think this could be a little bit more of a high-scoring game. I think the Commanders' offense is very good. We know how good Jaden Daniels is. They had Deebo Samuel. They added Laramie Tunsil. I know Sam Cosme's on injured reserve, so there's some questions on the offensive line. I think Connerly's starting at right tackle, right, the rookie, so you don't know what that's going to look like early. But defensively for Washington, they don't have a premium pass rusher. Their best pass rusher, Dorrance Armstrong, is probably on a really good pass rush like the 3, maybe like the 2B on a pass rush. I don't know how much Marshawn Lattimore has left at corner. Their other outside corner I have questions about. So I think this could be maybe a little bit more of a higher scoring affair this weekend.
Well, I mean, the Giants moved the ball. The Giants moved the ball kind of at will against them last year down in Washington. I mean, I know it was only week 2, but Jones was throwing it all over the place. I mentioned the Singletary fumble. They had a couple of key drops, including the Neighbors one late in the game. I could see it being a little bit more of an open scoring game.
I think both teams in the 20s.
Yeah, I mean, last year they couldn't stop Brian Robinson. I mean, that was the bottom line is they couldn't stop Brian Robinson, and they fell asleep. I'll never forget calling this and saying, watch out for Noah Brown. And Noah Brown had that big play against them, which kind of broke their back.
He did.
Jersey kid. I know he's coming back from a bunch of injuries. But, look, it's a very winnable game. But the Giants are going to have to play a very good game because Washington –
They're a good team.
Yeah, and let's face it. In that week 2 game against Jaden Daniels, he ran into a couple of sacks. He ain't running into sacks like he did that day. He's a much more polished player. But they got a shot.
If we can keep them in third and long, because I don't think they're going to run. I don't think they're going to run the ball very well. But if we can keep them in third and long, and control Daniels a little bit, I don't see any reason why we're right there. I think it's going down right to the end. I think it's going to be a close game. And it's going to go right down to the end, and hopefully we're on the right side of it. And thanks for taking my one thing on their offensive line. I don't think I've watched their games. Being down here, I get to see the 3 preseason games that they played. I'm not as enamored with Connolly, who's playing on the right side, as much as people seem to be. I think Burns he could have a field day. I don't think he's ready.
Could be.
Tunzel is tough to stop. He's a man, no question about that. And the 2 guards, reasonable guard. I think we can control it. It's going to take 2 people to, Cosme was a big loss.
Sure.
Yes.
They're playing. I think it's a guy named Allegretti. He's a backup.
And then Brandon
He's
Coleman, who they moved out in from tackle, is the other starting guard, correct? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. And the center, the center's a major league player.
Yeah, no, he's fine. Len, you got to roll.
For sure. But, hey, let's go Giants. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you, Len.
And great to talk to you guys.
And, Bob, he brings up 3rd and 7 against Washington. This brings up one of our YouTube channel questions. Jaden Daniels' running ability on 3rd downs. It's a difference maker, right? Scrambles out. He gets 8 yards when they need 7, gets 6 yards when they need 4. Do you think you might see Abdul Carter as a quarterback spy in this game to slow Daniels down in those situations?
Well, I think they're going to use him. They're going to use his athleticism, maybe as an off-the-ball backer to kind of keep an eye on Jaden Daniels and at least press him to the point where you slow him down enough so that others can rally to the ball. But, as great an athlete as Abdul Carter is, Jaden Daniels is Jaden Daniels.
No questions.
We'll see. But Carter gives the Giants a much better fighting chance than they had in the 2 games against them last year. That's why he was the 3rd overall pick.
All right, we got about 10 minutes to go. Let's go to Rich in Florida. He's up next. Hi, Rich.
Hi, John and Bob. Welcome back to BBKL.
Thanks.
Hey, Rich.
You guys do a great job. You're on in my opinion, the best show on all the media today in Giants football. John's team does a great job.
Well, thank you.
Well,
Rich.
I've learned since I've seen every game since 1961, no matter where I was in the Air Force, to never predict anything about the Giants. However, I got to make a bold prediction this year in all good faith. You'll get a kick out of this, John. That I predict that both Wilson and Charlie will have more positive things to say about the Giants on their calls this year than negative.
Rich, that is the boldest prediction I have ever heard. I got to be honest with you. I have never heard a prediction that bold before. You're going to be wrong, but I appreciate you being brave about it. I'll just say that. You have anything on the team for me, Rich?
Conference call buddy said that'll never happen, especially with Charlie. But, you got to think positive, just like Tino, right?
No one thinks positive like Paul Tito. That's
Paul
true.
Ditino the sun is always out over Paul Ditino.
Amen.
You have something on the team for me today, Rich, or is that all you got?
Bills are bringing back Gabe Davis.
I've seen every game. Cautiously optimistic. All your points were very good. We're just cautiously optimistic. I think, if the preseason is any indication, and you never know, like I said, I've seen every game, they're going to be more competitive this year. The talent level, especially at quarterback. My concern is always the offensive line, and then still don't have a real number 2 wideout. And I'm putting my cards on the table about Hyatt. This is it, make or break.
Well, Slayton's your number 2
Thank
wide
you, Rich.
receiver.
Appreciate the call.
Again, John, I can go back numerous years, and I could find you a whole bunch of tape of Darius Slayton running down the field wide open and just shoulders slumping as he went back to the sideline because he had his man beat, and either the ball wasn't thrown to him or the quarterback was running literally for his dear life. So I think Slayton's going to get a chance this year to make some explosive plays. I believe that. We'll see.
On the surface this year, Bob, the Giants, with the schedule the way it's set up against some very tough teams.
I'm glad you brought that up.
But again, you don't know what these teams are going to look like when the Giants play them. I think that's important to note. You're going to have to win close games. You're going to have to control your own mistakes. You're facing Patrick Mahomes in week 3. Yeah, can you beat the Chiefs at home? Sure. Can you beat the Chiefs at home if you turn the ball over twice? No, you probably can't. So you got to play clean football.
I'd rather play the Chiefs early in the season than late in the season.
Absolutely. You got to play clean football. You're going to have to win some close games. He mentioned, I think it was Len that mentioned Godot hitting some big kicks late in games. That's going to happen this year if you're going to win some of these games. So it's these little things on the margins that are going to make the difference in trying to win some of these tough matchups.
All right, I got an appeal out there for Graham Goodell.
Yes.
Opening night 2023. Block field goal, trying to chase the guy, returning for a touchdown, injures his knee, hobbled through half the season, went on IR. Last year, opening kickoff in Washington, Eckler returns it for a touchdown, pulls his hamstring, didn't have him for the rest of the game, and it was called back because it was a penalty on Washington. Please, at any point during the season, if a guy breaks one, just run to the sideline, please. And if the returner happens to be crossing your path, just stick a hand out and try to push him out of bounds. And if you don't, just please go to the bench. They need him. He's still a really good field goal kicker. Their margins will be small this year. They're not going to be blowing teams out. They're going to play a ton of close games, as you mentioned, John. They're going to be fighting up in their weight class at other times. You need Graham Gano for all 17 games.
I'll keep it simple. Don't try to really tackle anybody. To your point, just push them out of bounds.
Don't chase anybody.
And don't run full speed. That was number 2. Just no running full speed and no tackling.
And get out of bounds. Just get
out
of
bounds.
That was
correct.
the whole Marino thing. He'd throw those picks, and I think Shula said that he was gonna fine him or whatever if he dared to even try to tackle anybody.
You're more valuable healthy than whatever value that attempted play you're going to try to make.
I'm not equating Graham Gano to Dan Marino, but it's the same principle.
All right, Joey in California will wrap us up today. Joey, what's going on, pal?
Hi, guys. How's it going?
We're great.
Good. First of all, great job on the show. Love listening to you guys. I just want to talk about a few things I would like to see out of the Giants this year.
Sure.
First of all, the legacy blue uniforms and the vintage color rush uniforms, I'd love to see those be the permanent home and away jerseys. They came out last week and we were wearing those. Those are cool. Love seeing those.
How old are you, Joe?
But
I love those too, by the way.
How old?
36.
Yeah. So it's interesting, right? I wish they'd go back to the old uniforms. Says the Giant fan of your age group. Because when they wore that uniform, there were Giants fans of your age group and a little bit older that said, man, I wish they'd go back to the old uniforms, which are now the ones they're wearing now, the uniform from my youth. Follow what I'm saying? So it's like this catch-22. I think it's one of those things you got to kind of judge where your core fan base is in their evolution to which uniforms are considered the ones beloved, because there were like my dad, and who obviously he remembers the 50s team and the early 60s team, and I remember as a kid the 70s team. The uniform they wear now is what they wore,
and that's what Mr. Mara remembers when he was growing up as well.
Correct. But now that fans are getting old, some of those younger fans are getting older. They identify with the 80s, 90s uniform.
O.J. Anderson against the Bills, right? Yeah, all that stuff.
I remember the 90s uniforms. About the away jerseys, they were cool at first when we had the gray pants, but now with the white pants and the red stripes and the red socks, it's like, oh no, I'm looking like the Boston Red Sox here. I don't like seeing that.
They have the blue helmets. They still have the blue helmets.
They did wear white on white, I think, back in the 50s and early 60s at one point.
And they also have 2 Super Bowls wearing those white jerseys as well.
Correct.
Yeah, that's true. But anyway, getting back to something else I'd like to see this year. I don't know if it's because, the last few seasons it's been really pessimistic for us Giants fans, but, the lack of touchdowns on offense was a big problem last year. I hope to see at least, on average, 2 to 3 touchdowns a game.
Last 2 years.
I know that. What?
I said last 2 years that was a problem.
Yeah, so I'm hoping this year we can at least increase the touchdowns, and I don't think 2 to 3 is a bad expectation. I don't want to say 5 touchdowns a game, but I hope 2 to 3 per game would be reasonable. And the last thing I want to touch on, look, I get this kid Jackson Dart, and I hate saying kid. I can't believe I'm older than this guy. But I get the hype around him, and he looks good. But me personally, I think we should treat him like Aaron Rodgers was treated by the Packers, like Carson Palmer was treated by the Bengals. No need to rush him. Wait until we see if the offensive line is better first, then put him in. I don't really think there's a rush for this kid. Am I crazy?
All right, Joey, appreciate the call.
Yeah, I mean, he's not sitting the whole season. He's going to play some this year. It's just, in a perfect world, you're having a really good season, and you're in a game in which maybe you win a laugher, or God forbid, you're on the short end of a really bad score, and you get him in there, you get him to play a little bit, but he's going to play at some point this year. That's just the way. John Kitna is sitting for Carson Palmer for an entire year. Ain't happening. You can't use Rodgers as an example, because Rodgers was sitting behind a first ballot Hall of Famer in Brett Favre. I'll use the Kitna Palmer thing. Just, it doesn't happen anymore. I mean, Mahomes sat for 16 or 15 games, and then he started the last game for Alex Smith. They were on their way to the playoffs. It was a game that didn't mean anything. I think if you look at the Giants team this year, you got to think at some point Jackson Dart's playing. You hope it's not until much later.
Correct. And I think that's the goal. They want to bring him along slowly, and you hope Russell Wilson plays well enough, the offense is good enough, the team wins enough games where that's not going to be an issue. All right, Bob, just give me your final thoughts here as we head into the season.
Final thoughts are I can't wait. I'm excited for Sunday. I'm excited for the season. If I hear one more person tell me about the schedule, I'm going to throw up, because on average 4 of the teams that made the playoffs from the previous year do not make the playoffs. The strength of the schedule is based on last year. And once they kick the ball off on Thursday night to start this season, everything changes. Everything changes. There's going to be injuries. You're going to play teams that, again, I use the Peyton Manning example of 2011. Everybody looked at their schedule in 2011 and said, oh, my God, we got to go to Indianapolis to play the Colts. And then Peyton Manning missed the whole year. And suddenly people couldn't wait to get to Indianapolis to play the Colts. So it's a week-by-week proposition. Look, I'm hoping that they get, at least a split through the first 2 games, get off to a positive start. But I'm encouraged by what I see, but we're just talking right now. You got to do it on the field. What did Coach Coughlin say? Talk is cheap.
Play the game.
Play the game.
And then one other question from Eric Holt. Your favorite game to call besides one of the 2 Super Bowls? 30 seconds.
Whoa. I think the 2000 NFC divisional playoff game against Philadelphia, Ron Dixon returns the opening kickoff for a touchdown.
07 title game at Green Bay.
07 title game at Green, all the title games.
Yeah.
And then the Seahorn play. Those are really cool moments. My first game, even though the Giants got blown out 35-0 against the Cowboys, that's still a memorable game because I had my dad standing right next to me in the booth.
Oh, that's great. Bob, good stuff, my friend. This was fun.
It was fun.
Bob Papa, John Schmeelk. That's Big Blue Kickoff Live presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. From the Hackensack Marine Health Podcast Studio, keep getting better. We'll see you next time.